How are you doing, Gina?
I'm great. I can't believe it's been a year since we last spoke.
I know it is completely mental, and it's strange because speaking to yourself and other filmmakers like Michael Chan and Ian Rayburn and lots of people like that, it's like I've gotten to know people through the social media and all of that. So yeah, it's come full circle in many ways, and it's really nice to have yourself and Manny Bra and one or two of the other filmmakers submit again. So it's really really great. And with your film, it's not a complete departure from what the previous film, but this one, I think it's like a big level up, a big step up before your film before. Yeah.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely very different than Canadian for sure. So thank you for recognizing the step up.
No, no, absolutely, and more power to you for that. Manny Bra, a Canadian filmmaker from Toronto, he did something similar. You remember the film 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams?
Yeah.
And how people thought, wow, that's so different from Robin Williams. Well,
Yeah.
Manny produced something of a similar kind of change where he went from being the funny nice guy that everyone knows and everyone knows him in real life that way to something completely crazy, but in a really kind of constructive and creative way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can't wait to show you that film in particular.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
what's the kind of the genesis of this film, and when did it start? When were you first thinking about it?
Yeah, to be honest, your festival inspired me to actually create it. As soon as I saw you were doing it again, I was like, okay, what 3-minute film do I want to do? And I originally had this idea as two sisters, but a little sister, like a child. And
Okay.
the big sister is kind of stuck all of a sudden being a mom.
Yeah.
But our child actor actually fell through. And I was like, you know what? I just won't do it. It's fine. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm going to make this work. So I rewrote the script. And as I'm rewriting it, I was like, this needs to be more than 3 minutes. I'm going to make a whole short and edit a 3-minute clip just for your festival. And
Yes.
then when you changed it to 10 minutes, I was like, yes.
So were you at that point? Were you cutting things out that you'd already shot, or so you were going to make it a 3 minute version? Were there things you would have?
Yeah, we were at 3 minutes and 19 seconds.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay. I would have given you a pass on that one. Your screen's free. Your screen's
We were at
freezing
three
a little bit.
minutes, 19 seconds. We were trying so hard.
Yeah,
Oh, mine is? Oh,
yeah, a
you're
little
good
bit.
on my end.
Okay, let's keep going. But yeah,
We were at
sorry, go on.
we were at 3 minutes and 19 seconds. We were trying so, and that's without credits. We were trying so hard to figure out what 19 seconds at this point we could clip. And then that's when I was like, oh my gosh, they changed it to 10 minutes or 10 and under. I was like, we can just do, it's actually not the full short. It's about 5 minutes cut, but it was so much easier and we didn't lose as much of the story.
Yeah. But yeah, I honestly, I wasn't surprised that you came up with something that was a big step up. It was like, wow, this is really great, and it's great. It was a fully fleshed out idea. And what's the kind of history behind this particular short and this idea? Obviously, it was based in COVID times, kind of thing. But what was the kind of original? Where
Yeah.
where did it kind of stem from?
I think the more and more we open back up and the more I'm seeing people in all walks of people, it's a really great reminder that it wasn't just me and my friends that went through this year, but like what was their story and what were they worried about? And I have an old friend whose mom passed away in 2019 before 2020 started. And I thought of their family and their dad so much because I was like, wow, what a year to lose your wife and then have to stay in your home for a year after alone by yourself. And it just made me like wonder, like, are they happy that she died and missed all of this, or do they wish that she was here to experience it? And it birthed from that idea of the people who passed away right before COVID, like, are we happy that they did? But then that feels bad to say. So it was kind of like birthed from that idea.
That's what I'm really fascinated in. When you were telling me that story, when you heard that about your friend, did you instantly think, was it that moment? Oh, this would make a really interesting short. Was it that moment?
No, they're a long lost friend, so I haven't actually talked to them. They don't know about this film or anything. It was me on social media just thinking about it, knowing that this had happened and thinking about it. And I think that the idea kind of emerged while the rest of us are emerging from quarantine. Just the idea of, okay, so we made it through. What about all those people who never had time to grieve because they kind of just missed the mark? It happened, and then boom, now we're in a pandemic.
Yeah, it's it is crazy. It's a crazy time, and it's amazing because the football team I support, they hadn't won the league in the UK, which is the Premier League and Liverpool and all of that. We hadn't won it for 30 years. So they wrapped the season up at the beginning of the pandemic, just after the festival finished last year, and there was no celebration, there was no street party, there was no 500,000 people in the streets of Liverpool. There was nothing. So it's a really interesting kind of other end of the scale where there's no time to grieve and there's no time to celebrate. So
totally.
I would have been there. I'd have been climbing the lamppost, celebrating my flag, my top ripped off and all of that. I'd have done all of that. And I've never seen my team win the league. So that's a really powerful idea, that no time to grieve. It's a really kind of fascinating thing to kind of think about. And yeah, it's like just
it was the same thing as the LA Lakers and the LA Dodgers. They won, and same thing, no celebration on the street, no parade, nothing.
Yeah.
Is very, very similar.
Yeah, it's crazy because even when teams say, yeah, we'll celebrate in a year's time, it's those moments where you can't. It's not like you can have a funeral in 2 years kind of thing, Like I've heard stories of family members, friends of mine, their family members passing away in another country, can't go and be with their family in Spain, in this particular friend, and can't go and see her own mother's funeral. It is just horrific. There's green shoots of positivity and creativity, but there's so much kind of insanity and hardship as well, and from people losing their jobs to everything conceivable has happened, doesn't it?
I feel like when we talked last time, we were like, "Oh, it'll be over by the summer. It'll be over soon." And
we'll do
here we are for LA.
Yeah, we'll do
later.
a little rewind section. We'll go back to the other interview. Yeah. Yeah, and then I had COVID in December. I don't know if you know that.
Oh no, I didn't know that you had it.
I was in hospital for 2 weeks and I was in intensive care and everything. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, well, I'm glad that you're okay.
Yeah, it was crazy. I got my results on the day I was supposed to be married. So my test results I'm not joking. This sounds like a scene from a film. I got my test results when I was putting my suit on for my wedding. And I was seriously ill at the time. I was really like, right, I'm exhausted. It must just be work. The Hellbound Horror Festival's just finished. That's another festival I host. I started. It must be that. I must be exhausted. As soon as I got my test results, 2 days after that, I was seriously ill at home. And then I had an ambulance. My partner, Vicky, she was crying at the door. wheelchair, oxygen all for 2 weeks, and recovering for up until about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So it's crazy.
Well, I'm glad that you're okay and that you found out before the wedding, and that you also were able to eventually have the wedding, because you just got married a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
Yay!
this is
Congratulations.
this ridiculous this is a ridiculous ring. I know it is. This is something I picked. This is based on Ed Harris's Ring in the Abyss.
Yes,
Yeah, so
I love it.
major internal geek points, you know what I mean?
No, that's perfect.
So yeah, can you tell me a little bit about how you kind of put your team together? Because I really kind of want to talk about your performances in the film as well. And it's almost like it has this positive energy to the film and a really good message. And I think the idea is really strong. Can you tell me how you kind of put your team together for the film?
For sure. So JG Murphy, we brought back from Canadian, who did our editing. And this time, once we realized we wanted to make it longer than a 3-minute short, I was like, can you also film for us as well? So I had worked with him in the past, so it was really easy that way, and that we knew how we both worked. And I brought in my normal production assistant, Kayla Marie Peterson. She came in and also assistant directed for me, just to catch things that I couldn't see while I was acting. And then Joe Chambrello is amazing. He and I worked on the Bachelor parody.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I loved him in this.
I know his performance was so strong, and he added so much to the film, so much.
Yeah,
he's
brilliant.
Amazing. And we knew that we worked well together from the Bachelor parody, so we were able to jump into it together right away and mesh it out. So it was great. He's amazing.
Joe has this kind of all-American Captain America vibe going on. I love that. That's gotta be awesome. That's gotta be the ultimate compliment for a man, hasn't it? You know, or like a kind of is he American, Joe?
Yeah, I know that he's of Italian descent, but I'm pretty sure that he is American, born and raised. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
When you speak to Joe next time, just tell him that he has this kind of Captain America vibe I really like. apart from the TikTok scene.
That was his idea too. That wasn't in our original script, and he came up with that idea while we were filming, and we were like, yes, let's go with it.
Yeah, because it's totally believable, because anyone does TikTok, you know. If you have a look at Michael Chan, who is he's a brilliant filmmaker, and he submitted a film called Twitch last year, and Switch, he'll not forgive me, but he kind of adds this extra energy, and he does a lot of TikTok stuff as well. But when that scene, it feels awkward in the right way and funny, and it kind of connected your relationship as two characters in the film so well.
Yeah, we originally had a scene where he was doing this weird dance trying to make me laugh, and I was like, what are you doing? Very typical Big Brother. And we cut it originally, and the more we looked at the script the last minute, I was like, we need to bring that scene back. We need it because it shows a fun side of also Mila, who is my character, who isn't just complaining about him all the time, then is also having fun. And so he was like, let's just make it into a TikTok, because that kind of blew up in the quarantine. I was like, woo, that's amazing. Let's do it. So we actually improv majority of that scene right there.
I thought it was excellent. I've got to tell you, my favorite moment is, I don't really want to spoil the film. I might bleep some of this, or might cut it out and just have it between you and I. But the scene where you're arguing about the picture frame and why is the picture of mom on the couch or in the couch, and Joe says, I don't know why I'm laughing, but Joe says mom's dead, and you freeze like you've seen a different side to your brother. There's an energy to it where you're like that. Oh no, that protective bubble that you can have with strong family members or brothers and sisters. That's kind of being pulled apart a little bit. And I love it when you're like this. I thought he was brilliant. I think the energy was right. I think you both worked so well together, and you can see that you've worked together before. The kind of chemistry's there, the brother sister chemistry. But yeah, I think your performances are excellent. I kind of want to talk about a little bit about the production. What do you know what it was shot on, and how long did it take to shoot? Was it was it a relatively straightforward process?
Yeah, I should have asked what it was shot on. I don't actually know because it wasn't my camera this time. But we shot so also remember that that's not the full film. It's about, I'd say probably it's going to be around 14 to 15 minutes, the full version. And we shot it all in one day. I think we were able to tap it out at about 11 and a half hours. So it was wild. We did it quickly. And it was pretty smooth. We were doing script rewrites as we were going. I had been editing the script, and we had a little bit too much here. We went this far, and then the night before I was like, I'm not happy with where it went. We went too far. So we pulled it back into the middle to find that balance of the comedy and drama. And so a lot of the scenes that we rewrote as we were doing it, to go back to a former version. But otherwise it was really smooth because everyone was very relaxed, and we all knew that we know what our job is and that we could get it done. And I think we got the edit for you within a week and a half, because we did all of this on your deadlines for this festival.
I love it. I love it when people say
that. The full version is still being edited.
Oh, I want to, if there's a full version, like an extended, like the Let It Breathe kind of version, I'd like to see that as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it to you, because a lot of, we didn't chop out a lot of scenes, but there's definitely 3 or 4 scenes or so that we edited out in this version. So whenever that final full one is, I'll let you know, and I'll let you see it.
And it was it a kind of a straightforward process when you chose some of the more positive music that's in the film?
JG Murphy is literally a music whiz. He found all the music and did all of the music for it. So I think at one point there was a different song that I was like, okay, I don't like this vibe. This is what I want. And he, next song up, boom, had it, nailed it. So that was all his masterpiece of work. And he did the music for Canadian too. So that is all him. He's really great at being able to listen to, especially me. I never can say what exactly I want. I'm like, this vibe, this idea. And he grabs onto it and finds it. He's great.
Sounds like you've got a very good working relationship.
100%. He's the person I call on now if I need anything, really. He's great. He's really easy to work with, and that's a big thing for me. Is you can be super talented, but I also need you to be easy to work with and be able to go with my like loosey-goosey artist vibe too.
I did think that music that almost had a piece of whistling in it, that one, I thought that was very, I sensed that was very Gina. You know what I mean? So when you heard it, you're 100%. Like, yeah, that works so well. I love that. It's very me.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, so how did he edit that remotely?
Yeah, he edited it remotely and he uploaded it. I'd watch it, give my feedback, he'd re-edit, upload it. So it takes a bit longer that way because you're always uploading, but he's very patient with me and did it every time, which he's a gem for that. As I always would have little notes here, especially when we were trying to make the 3-minute cut. At that point, we were just trying to cut air. Like, there's a little air here we could get rid of, a little air here.
Well, that's the thing about real filmmaking, isn't it? That you can't cut that air out. You know, in terms of staying on a shot longer, understanding. It's like real filmmaking, isn't it? Is understanding the breathing points and when to cut those things out, when to relieve them. So I'm glad I released the longer category.
Yes, me too. We got a better film out of it because of it.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, I can put that back in. I can work on this, that, and the other. But yeah, I think, what did you say your name of your production colleague was that shot it and edited it?
J.G. Murphy.
I think they did a sterling job with shooting it as well.
Yes, me too. And I very let them have full control over it. I said, this is what we need or what we want, but you decide. Even that the outdoor bench, that was all him. I was like, let's just have them on the balcony to show that like that was your outside time, was being on a balcony. And he had this idea of like, let's wait till sunset and I'm just going to get the backs. And that's actually his favorite shot. And we had to cut it in the 3-minute clip and he was so sad. And so he's like, if this is a 10-minute, I'm putting the best shot back in.
That's awesome.
But he was great. He had wonderful ideas. That was all him.
Well, that's the beauty of thinking on your feet as well as when you shoot something, especially when you're the editor, because you kind of, right, I know the mechanics. Obviously, you can shoot to edit, but you have this whole idea of what you do all your blocking and you work all your kind of geography of the room and all of that and your coverage. But he's got a very clear idea of where it's going in his mind, especially when he's shooting. So when you put that shot back in, it makes more sense. And having the bench and the key thing with your film is believing the two of them are related, not just through the dialogue and the story, it's just the kind of energy and the chemistry. And I think that works straight away.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, that was something that we really focused on, and making sure that we could define they were siblings and not a couple, especially being a boy and girl. A lot of people are always prone to assume that they're a couple. So we worked really hard on finding that sibling chemistry, and not, Joe was really worried about it being a little bit over the edge like sitcoms are, where it's a little like, eh. So we worked really hard on making sure it was a true foundation of just a brother and sister who had been through a lot and now are stuck living together in his bachelor pad that Mila just remakes.
Yeah, and that's another great thing about you wrote the film, right?
Yes, I did write it.
That's another testament to you for the script and obviously Joe's idea about the TikTok. He stamps his authority all over, like a gorilla, all over the apartment. And that's super important. You know what I mean? In terms of
totally
not respecting your boundaries when you're on the phone call with a blender, all that kind of thing. It all works so well.
Yeah, he did great. He knew exactly what he needed to do when he stepped on set. He was that annoying big brother.
Yeah. I've got 2 older brothers, and yeah, I totally understand that. And you can enjoy this film in 2 different ways. You can see the drama and you can see the comedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it definitely appreciates like a fine wine in terms of if you watch it multiple times, I think you get more out of it.
That's like the best compliment. Thank you. That was something that I really wanted, was to have it comedic and light, and the audience all of a sudden get dropped at the end, like, ooh, this got deep. Because I think that's what a lot of quarantine was for us. We were all laughing at the beginning, being like, yeah, this will be a couple of weeks. We get to stay home from work. And then all of a sudden it became, okay, this is actually going to just be our lives for a year and a half. And it eventually began to lose the funniness, and it was just very humdrum.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, and then queues started to happen everywhere. You queue up for everything. It's a very British thing as well, queuing up for things. And yeah, it's like the idea of something strange is going on when you're queuing up just to go into a supermarket.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We'd have in LA an hour line to get into Trader Joe's. It became like I couldn't shop anymore unless it was right before it closed, because I was never gonna wait in an hour line in the heat. there is no way I was ever going to make that happen. I would drive 30 minutes to a smaller part of town to get into their grocery store.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask about, because I know we talked about living in LA and what you've worked on before. Can you tell me a little bit about that record store you posted about? Was it yesterday or the day before?
Oh yeah, Amoeba Music. So they had this beautiful, beautiful store in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard, and they lost their lease before COVID. COVID just made them move out faster than they were going to, because the city of LA wants to make it into another apartment, which is absolutely garbage. We don't need any more skyscrapers of empty $4,000 studios in the city. But I digress on that because I could go on forever.
There's a bigger thing on the streets of LA that need to be resolved. And
Yes.
even me in Chester knows about that.
That's sad.
That's for another time. But yeah, you were saying about the amoeba.
Yeah. So we're all really sad because it was a huge, huge landmark and it closed down. They had tried to fight for the space, but the city wasn't willing to let them keep it. So they said that they were going to stay in Hollywood, and they ended up finding a new location on Hollywood Boulevard instead. And they reopened, I think after I think we hit the second tier or something, the third time or whatever. And their line was insane to get into because you could only have, I think at that point it was either 10 or 20% capacity. So their line would go around the block and around again. So yesterday I passed by and that was the first time. We are now at full capacity, no restrictions. Masks
really? Okay.
Only for unvaccinated, but let's be real, no one's listening to that. Although I have to say California is like really good. Everyone has still worn their masks. So that was the first time I could get into the store without waiting in the line. And it was cool. It's not the same vibe as their old place. It's a little cramped, but I'm happy that they made it through because so many businesses didn't. So I'm just happy that they were able to reopen and find somewhere to go.
Is it the same kind of management or owners?
Yeah, exact same owners. They basically just picked up and moved into a different location. They say it's bigger, but it seems a little bit smaller. It's only one story. The other store was 2, and it's a little bit scattered. Their organization isn't quite great yet, but I'm just happy that they're still there because they're a great store. They have vinyl, they have CDs, they have cassette tapes, they've got posters, merch from old style bands and musicians. So they're a great place to go and find anything.
Oh, that's very cool. Cassettes. All of that takes me back so far in time.
Yeah, I bought some cassettes because my record player has a cassette player on the side, and I don't even remember who I bought. I think I found an old Whitney Houston cassette tape that I was like, I'm just going to buy this to have it because this is crazy.
I've got cool. Michael Jackson. I can't remember what it was. It was like a very colorful crown album cover, and his eyes are in the middle of it. It's like a theme park design. I can't quite remember the album.
Yeah. That's is that Invincible? I think Invincible or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And it's kind of.
I have that CD.
Yeah, I got the cassette. What I used to do with my blue and purple cassette player, my quote unquote, it's probably, I don't know if this is the right term, ghetto blaster. It was like this big purple and blue player, and it was a cassette player, but you could also record on it because there was a little microphone. I thought, what are we going to do with this? And because I'm a massive geek in many ways, as you can tell by the horror and the Orson Welles stuff here and all of that rubbish in the back. But it's I used to record episodes of because it's Star Trek. I used to record episodes of Star Trek on my cassette player by holding it near the TV because there was no YouTube, there was no internet really, there was nothing like that. You had to go to someone's house to see if they were in, if you wanted to go and play or whatever, play football or go cycling or start a fire in the woods or something like that, you had to go to someone's house. So I used to record films on my cassette player and play them at night. So it was like I was getting this telly play, like this kind of Murder, She Wrote, like there's a Murder She Wrote thing. I think it's in Hollywood. I think it's in Universal Studios or in the Florida version, but it's probably gone now where you could do Foley mixing. And what you would see is an episode of Murder She Wrote on the screen, and you do the Foley mix for the episode. And I have this.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
So when I recorded these episodes of Star Trek or the movies, it was like I was experiencing it in a different way. And that was my experience with a cassette recorder.
I was just talking with a friend the other day because we used to do that with music, right? Even before we could make mixed CDs, we would take the little boom box and record it to the radio for music to make your own a mixed cassette. And we were talking about the things that like now to think that we used to actually use maps or the TV guide. I don't know if you guys did this in the UK, but like the TV guide would come once a week. And that was your TV for a week. You'd be looking in this newspaper, just weird things that we have forgotten and that we ever had to do that.
Yeah. Especially when it came around to Christmas with the TV guide. Or what movies are available. Because in the UK, there's far less channels than there are in the US in terms of general TV. Because there's no obviously on demand or anything like that. So what movies are available, that kind of one time you could watch things. I'm gonna tell you a really bizarre story that I've never. This will stay in the episode, and it's to do with VHS recorders because my dad used to have Betamax as well, so that stretches far back. This is so odd. I throw my dad under the bus here. My dad had 2 VHS players, and I never understood why. So he had 2, and he used to work at a car factory that's used to be owned by GM. Called Vauxhalls, and it's Opel in Europe, and so they make family cars, that kind of thing. My dad worked there for years, and he used to buy elite pirate films and like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original. So I had a copy of that years before like months before the film came out here, and he had 2 VHS players. I'm thinking, is he just copying films and selling them? And I'm like, why is he standing in front of the TV when he does this? This is so odd. And you know what he was doing? He was copying porn. He was copying porn on VHS and selling it at work. It's so random, So I've got a very storied kind of history with cassettes and VHS. But it's to go back to the Amoeba. It looked amazing, and it's the kind of. It's the kind of right kind of energy to kind of get you out of thinking about what's going on in the world, to enjoy music, to really enjoy something now. I can't, apart from my wedding a couple of weeks ago, before that, I don't know what I, really enjoyed last, in terms of a piece of entertainment or music or truly gone, wow, that was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited because sports are back at, if it's an outdoor stadium, full capacity. If it's indoor, there's still a little restriction. Concerts are coming back. Broadway is reopening in the fall. So I'm excited to eventually get back into that. I still, when I'm like at a restaurant with the loud music and loud people, I'm not adjusted for that yet. I'm like, this is loud. I would rather just be at home still. But I have always been I like the mass gathering of live music. That's what I miss the most, was definitely concerts. So I'm ready to jump back into that whenever a show opens here. So I'm excited for that.
So was it kind of little festivals you'd go to, or bands kind of tours, or?
Yeah, tours for sure. If they're just performing a one-night concert or whatever at a stadium. I like festivals as well, though. So I think festivals will be back by next year. I know some parts of the US, they're already back. I think in California, next year is when they'll start up again for sure.
Yeah, like the biggest band in the UK, biggest festival in the UK, Glastonbury, that got completely decimated, and all of the rest of them did as well. And that's something you should go to if you ever come over here, is go to Glastonbury. It's about 300,000 people, something like that. It's
Yes.
not. It's one of the most like iconic and legendary festivals worldwide. But you'll see just a kind of cross mix of people, and you feel accepted. You know, when you go to these festivals, you feel accepted, and
Hmm.
everyone's there for the right reasons. There's a lot of positive energy, and that's something that's been missed. You know, not just in the US and the UK, worldwide. It's the kind of positive energy that music can give you, and I think you get that so in abundance with festivals.
Yeah, 100%. I think that music is always something that people can relate to, and music kind of stopped, and it was just a lot of news and politics in everyone's ears and a lot of arguing for a whole year. So I'm excited for festivals to come back. I think the only one that's not usually positive is Coachella. And I make a joke about that in Canadian, like, even Coachella got canceled
Yeah.
2 years in a row. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God. So
But even them, I'm happy that they'll be able to come back as well next year.
is that a festival you not fancy going to?
You know, I've gone to Coachella. I'd go again, but it is a different vibe at that festival, which is really sad because the history of Coachella was that it was very indie bands and it was amazing. And then eventually it just turned into who was like hot pop music, and the influencers kind of all claimed it. And no offense to the influencers, but the bad side of the influencers claimed it. And it's
Yeah.
just become very haughty poshy. People aren't very polite. So it just really lost. It's crazy how mainstream it became, really, when it used to be all these bands that most people didn't know, very indie, almost folk style music,
Yeah.
to very pop.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it happens to neighborhoods that have got character, like there's probably parts of New York and LA and London and Manchester and Liverpool that have lost part of their character through gentrification, or like
Mhm.
let's kind of move everyone out in many ways. Let's drive out people that can't necessarily afford it. Oh no, we'll make it where they can't afford it and can't go. And it just turns into a Starbucks, in many ways. It just turns into,
Yeah.
not your mom and pop's coffee shop, but something that's kind of different. It just changes it, and everyone's just taking pictures or whatever. And yeah, that's the biggest thing about Glastonbury. Even though there are huge names and they're not huge brands there. There's a few here and there, but there's individual kind of food stands, and it feels a bit more organic. And I went to a place in London called Brixton, and had this huge kind of Jamaican vibe, and for years and decades, it had this amazing character music scene. But then it changed massively. Like London's changed massively, and yeah, festivals go through the same thing, and it's sad in many ways because the original
Mhm.
character is lost, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. The original fans that build those festivals up get kicked out of their own festival, basically,
Yeah,
because then they're no longer welcome there because it's not their same crowd. So it's interesting watching the evolution of it. It's a little bit sad. Or if you are gonna evolve, stay friendly, stay nice. There's no reason to like look so high upon yourself as a festival or as a festival goer also.
yeah,
Like my friends will always laugh because people treat Coachella like it's a fashion show, but you're in the middle of the desert. So they're wearing all these white, it's all like black and dirty by the end. I'm like, what did you think was gonna happen? You're in a
yeah,
field in the desert.
yeah. That's
So
it's so true. And you hear, I see videos about it. I've seen so much about Coachella and how it's changed and all of that. And I was watching a show called, I think it was called Chef's Table on Netflix. And there's a chef's table. It's a really beautifully shot show about chefs, Michelin star chefs worldwide, and it's kind of super high end. There's tiny bits of food that cost X amount of money. It's the score, and there's plenty of places
yep.
in here in LA and all sorts that do that. And there's a chef's table, but street food. So they go to super famous street food vendors that have tiny stalls. And the fascinating thing I didn't fully realize until I watched the episode last year was how seafood like crab or lobster was working class food in many places, and all that super what we consider high end now, like, you know, you see a crab served upside down, or lobster, like a really expensive kind of seafood, was just something that was sold to people that are on the street. And now it's kind of flipped so much, and it's a similar thing to the festivals. You know, like ticket prices are crazy for festivals now, and things get flipped in many ways. Oh, that's popular. We'll make it expensive. It's like that. It's like that guy from Jurassic Park. You know, the guy that tried the business guy who tries to sell. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll have a coupon day. You know,
Yeah.
that guy. He gets eaten on the toilet, thankfully. But it's like that. It's like that. Like Hammond is what you and I would want to experience from Jurassic Park, but then the business guy is the one that kind of, oh no, we can do this.
You know, this makes me think of, this is a little like same topic but different, not festival. But someone said this to me last year, and I've never forgotten it. And I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in North America anyway, well, Canada and the US, if there is a family that maybe the parents lost their job, or they're just, you know, underprivileged, but they care about the kids. It's not that it's a bad home for the kids. They're just poor. They will remove the kids from that family, put them into foster care with another family, and then pay the family to take care of these kids until the parents can get back on their feet. So if we are paying a separate family why don't we just pay the family?
Yeah.
And let the kids stay with their parents? And I was like, wow, you're right. Why that? I never really thought about that, but the system is so backwards. If the kids aren't in danger and it's not an abusive situation, why aren't we just giving that money to the family? And, you know, it's always, oh, well, people will take advantage. No matter what, people are always going to take advantage here or there. But the majority of people want to be self-sufficient and feel like they contribute to society, which means they will gladly take that for a couple months to get back on their feet. And then they will be happy to say, yeah, we're okay now. We thank you for helping us when we needed it. Instead of taking these kids out from a family that loved them into strangers. And it's kind of the same thing there. Is there's something a little backwards that I feel like COVID really highlighted, and I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately, because I'm watching us how quickly we're getting back into our same rhythms to help the economy. But it's kind of sad because we had a really good reset point where we could have stopped and been like, okay, this system that we created, now we see how much it doesn't work. How can we change it? And it would have been a great point in history to be able to change a lot of things.
That is you put it far more eloquently than I could have. It's, yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, we should be there to kind of support each other, and when you don't see that happening in the last year, it terrifies me and really boils my blood as well, especially when you're in a position where you can't make those changes. And this kind of comes back to a point I mentioned earlier. We didn't joke about it, but I kind of, if you're happy talking about this, what I'd love to have your opinion, and for people to know that don't know what goes on in LA in terms of people living on the streets in LA, in terms of the scale of it. What have you kind of seen? What have you experienced? And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for almost 10 years now, and it's crazy how much it's increased. You know, I would say that I made a big personal change in the last year or two, and a lot of it was because of COVID. I think that a lot of my viewpoints really drastically changed to a more compassionate side, because I always felt that people could work for what they needed and the government would help them if they needed it. And I genuinely believe that. And I think that this was like a wake up. I was like, oh, the government's not going to help. Okay. Like, I was very privileged in being able to think that was what would happen. So a lot of like these homeless people, same thing, you know, everyone says, oh, they take advantage of the system. Okay, so maybe you have a couple, but are we really going to treat the entire population like that because of a couple who are taking advantage? So a lot of the homeless people now, it's like, it's because they can't afford to live. I mean, nobody here was working for a year and a half. We got stimulus checks in the US, which were a joke, honestly. Like, if you are 10 months behind on rent, $2,000 isn't making a dent. And it's funny, I had someone who's quite wealthy be like, oh, well, $1,400 is a lot. And I was like, okay, that just shows how out of touch the two classes are, because you think $1,400 is a lot for us, but no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. And so a lot of people lost their homes. And it was already bad before COVID. So COVID just made it even worse. The sidewalks are full now. There used to be a law in LA that if you were homeless, you were allowed to sleep on the sidewalk, but you had to be gone from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. so businesses could have their sidewalk. And then at night when the business closed, they were allowed to sleep in the doorways and the business couldn't argue. So they got rid of that during COVID. And they're petitioning now to get it back, because the streets, like, I walk on the road a lot because the sidewalk is full. And a lot of it's like mental illness. It's just sad because the government's not doing anything. And I said to my roommate, I was like, you know what I'd like to do when I'm a rich actor is to just be able to build an entire complex for homeless people and be like, here's a studio, go live in it, don't pay anything, get your life back together, or live here forever, whatever, just to get them off the street and provide them with a home, because a lot of them need mental help. Not a jail cell. And just not much is being done. But it got way worse during COVID for sure. It's pretty crazy.
I saw something about what's the highest kind of ranked police officer, something about, I don't know if it was a part of Venice Beach, but it was like a sheriff, or it was like someone high up within the California Police Department, where he was so frustrated with how things had gone with, is it the mayor or the senator? It was, the governor of California, just like nothing's changed. And like you say, it's gotten way worse. It's just kind of skyrocketed. I can only imagine what people have gone, right, they've lost their jobs, they have to live on the street,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel so sorry because people, men are vulnerable as well, but women are exceptionally vulnerable when it comes to kind of living on the street, and everything that can possibly happen. It's just horrific. And when you see shots of anyone watching this, I would have a look at the situation there. It's crazy. It's like villages, isn't it? It's like one of those festivals, but it's tents everywhere. And I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I can't understand how you can spend billions on warfare or machines and aid packages to, I believe in supporting. If you can support by donating vaccines to other countries, that I think that's fantastic. The helping each other, helping other countries is great, but you've really got to fucking help out the vulnerable in your own country as well. And homeless people are exceptionally vulnerable. The mental health, people's mental health will have skyrocketed in terms of poor mental health last year. So yeah, it's really awful. And it's, it drives people out of cities as well in many ways. And why would you want to start a business in that kind of area? It's so difficult.
Yeah. I think the US is really behind on even recognizing mental health as something, and they're getting better on it for sure. But a lot of the homeless people are still treated like criminals instead of taking them to a place that specializes in mental health. One thing that they have started doing, which is really great, is creating tiny homes. So it's like a little almost like a shipping container kind of, but that sounds like really bad. It's not like they're being put in a container. But it's like that type of material where they have like a bed and a bathroom.
Gina, I know what you mean. People watching this know what you mean, or listening to this know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay, good. So there's like little tiny home villages that they are starting to put up, and where they're starting to house people, which is really great. And I think that should be, I mean, it's like my apartment idea, except different, but it's the same concept of just housing them is actually cheaper than paying for the destruction of city property. So at this point, if it's, because I feel like everything's just looked at money value, it's cheaper to give them a home than to continue paying for sanitary cleanup and repairs and kicking them out and all of that. Another thing that was really backwards that they did, like I say maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point, was they made a bylaw that people couldn't live in their car because so many people were living in their car. So what they did is they just went and lived on the street. So that was, I think their idea was to free up the parking area for vans that would just stay for like months and months and months. But it was just not well thought out, because those people just left the van and went and lived on the sidewalk. And then, of course, just there needs to be rent control in LA. There was a bill for it on the last election for California. And of course, it didn't go through because no big business is going to vote yes to this, because they're going to lose money. But we have so many skyscraper apartments that just got built that are absolutely sitting empty because no one can afford them, and they're just wasting space. And what could actually go to people that are like in my income level or a little higher, a little lower, that we'd be able to afford it. So there needs to be something. I hope that the LA housing market just completely blows up. That's what I hope for. It's just insane, the prices that they are selling things for and expecting. This was before COVID. I went to an open house. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and it was 1.2 million. And it was like the second bedroom was like a loft style almost. Like I was like, what? Like, no.
Oh, like kind of a room that was developed after that. Kind of, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Totally. Like you did have stairs, and there was a door. It wasn't a fully loft, but like it was definitely an afterthought.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just wild to me. It just, the prices are, they've gone up, but it's a case of, we as a society are not moving up economically. It's, here's the two classes, and they're getting farther and farther and farther and farther apart. And that bubble is eventually going to just burst. And you're going to have a really angry and left out and forgotten about population. And that's like what I'm concerned about, is what happens when that bubble bursts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for telling me that about the kind of the situation there. It's really, really fascinating that there's so many kind of empty spaces, and there is parts of that in the UK, but in terms of a homeless population, I've never seen that in London's massive. The city of London is massive because it grows and grows. Big cities are like a virus. They grow and grow and grow in terms of where the boundaries are, where the city limits are, kind of thing. And I've personally never seen that anywhere I've been. Obviously, we're a much smaller country, smaller population. We've got about 70 million people. The US has got about 350, something like that, 350 million.
Yeah, we're at 10 million in LA alone. So, but
you can understand why people gravitate to LA in terms of, what the opportunities are and all that. So
yeah,
it's like the scale it's gone to. That's the thing that's so scary, is the scale they've let it go to.
Yeah. And I have to like point out too, because people love to hate on LA because LA is always in everyone else's business pointing fingers. So we're always easy to be like, yeah, look at your homeless population. But I have to say, I mean, there's definitely more they could be doing. These tiny homes are a great step, and I hope it continues. And I think COVID, they kind of just stopped anything. So I'm not saying that they're doing a great job. They're not. They could be doing so much more. But people always love to be like, see, New York doesn't have these problems. Chicago doesn't have these problems, but they also have winter. So a lot of people come to LA because it's hot and I mean, we get cold in the winter, but like you can very rarely is it, you know, you might be facing death if you're on the street maybe 3 days a year, if that.
You've got the
Otherwise,
amazing
you're
weather.
more experiencing death from overheat. So
That's me.
people
If
come
I
here.
spent time there, I'd be dying in the streets of the heat. It's
You
warm.
see me
It's
right now, I'm
warm here.
sweating.
Look at
It's
me.
like 35 degrees Celsius right now. I'm so hot.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna find out. Where's my phone? I'm gonna find out what temperature it is compared to yours now. It's hot here. I'm sweating. Like I've been super busy today. I've been on a shoot today, and I'm just like completely exhausted. I was really tired before you called, but I'm energized now. So I'm gonna find out what time is temperature.
Good. As we're talking, I have sweat rolling down my arm. So there you go. Some fun facts for all those listeners.
I'm sitting on a new leather chair now, and I'm really like I
had to put a blanket on my leather couch because I was like, oh, if I have to move during this, they're gonna just hear like my body sticking to it.
Yeah, you're gonna peel yourself off.
I have a fan in the background, but it's on the lowest possible because I didn't want it to be really loud on the mic. But I also don't have air conditioning, so when we get these heat waves now in my new apartment, it's awful. I literally gain weight because my body is like, you know how like heat it constructs like your blood flow or whatever, so I get all swollen because I have no way to just make it stop. I sleep with like ice bags on top of me.
Oh, that's interesting to think about that. Yeah, because
I'm
exactly the same. Like I sweat through the night, and I feel as though I need to change my bedding because we have obviously duvets here because it gets cold and all of that.
Yeah, I have one too. Yeah,
and it's it's not like they don't have duvets in the US. You know what I mean? So I think it was about 22 degrees today, and that's pretty high for here. And I get destroyed by weather, but I'm super grateful for seasons, seasons in weather.
Yeah.
Because I swear I was born in the rain. Yeah, I was born in the dark room. In terms of my ancestors, I feel as though I was born in kind of Sweden or Norway or something, and it was freezing cold there because I prefer the cold.
I mean, I'm Canadian, so I prefer the cold too. I'm a December baby. Throw me into snow any day of the week. I love the cold. And it's funny because I've been in LA for so long that I've slowly adjusted to their version of cold, but I've refused to adjust to their version of heat. So I have like 5 degrees now where I'm happy. Otherwise, I'm just not happy in either direction now.
Yeah,
I'm never comfortable.
That's fascinating, and that reminded me of something I saw about. I think it was in Austin, Texas, where they had snow or something. It was to do with these giant electricity bills and these heating bills people had. And it was like tens of thousands of dollars. And it's like, that's insane to me. It's so crazy,
Yeah.
And
Texas is not on the main US power grid. They like want to be on their own. So when that happened, the US wasn't keeping their power going because they want to be on their own grid. So people were going like over a week without water or electricity of any sort. And then all these bills were huge. And I assume that they ended up canceling them. Like, how can you actually charge someone $10,000 for a week where they didn't even have electricity anyway? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can I ask you one little last LA question before we move on to something else?
Oh yeah.
You might not know anything about it, but I watched this terrible documentary series on Netflix called what was it called? It's about the Cecil Hotel. Do you know about the Cecil Hotel?
I don't think so.
Don't go there. Just don't. After this, Google the Cecil Hotel and just check it out. It's in LA. I'm pretty certain it's LA, and it's
okay.
Don't ever go there.
Okay.
There's a documentary series about this girl that disappears and they couldn't find it. It was the worst thing that's been on Netflix. It's the worst thing Netflix have produced. But the history of this hotel in LA is legendary in terms of evil and dark stuff and real horror. But you probably go past it on your commute. But yeah, check.
Now I have to look it up. Be like,
Yeah. They've gone through rebranding and all sorts, and yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I didn't want to scare you.
I mean, I feel like anytime you're in a big city, there's so many sketchy
Oh my
things that
God, yeah.
you almost become a bit numb to them. Like,
Yeah,
okay, like
absolutely.
it
I
just
spent
happens so
some
often.
serious time in Mexico City. I spent time on my own exploring Mexico City. And my friend of mine I was staying with, and he's from Chester. He married a girl from Mexico, Chris and Carla. They're a wonderful couple. And he said to me, "You went out on your own." And he says, "Do you realize the kind of kidnap rates there are in the in Mexico City for people that look exactly like you?" I was like, "No, I was enjoying myself as a it's this kind of British thing of I'll be fine. Do you know what I mean? It's I'll be fine no matter
Yeah,
what." I did that in New York as well. I went to Queens on my own on the is in L train. I don't understand. L train's the
yeah,
elevated, isn't it? Yeah.
yep.
So I went on the L train to Queens to go and get tickets for the New York Mets. I think it was New York Mets. Yeah, baseball game, and I'd never been. And I went there on my own. Came back and realized, all right, okay, went on my own. Don't know anything about how this the system works when I went there, and yeah, it's that's the way you should be able to enjoy trips where you go somewhere. You shouldn't have
Should.
to feel in danger, apart from the Cecil Hotel. But yeah,
Queens and New York is fine. I feel way safer in New York any time of day than LA. Because I used to live in New York, and you were totally fine on the L train. I mean, maybe always there is any chance for something sketchy to go on anywhere,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
no, you're safe in New York, at least in the Queens area.
Yeah, it's there's sketchy places 5 minutes from me now. Um,
Mhm.
but where I live, I don't know if I told you last time, I live on an army base, technically,
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
which it's kind of cool as well. It's because the land isn't owned by the army. 2/3 of it just got sold to people can like ex-police. It first went to military, police, and nurses, and kind of the forces in the UK. So those people got first dibs, so to speak, or first dibs is a UK thing of first offering of the houses at a relatively good price. And a few years later, we found this house, and it's on a street that looks like Haddonfield, Illinois, from like Halloween. That's what the street looks like, and I love that. So yeah, it's there's I think there's a couple of thousand soldiers on one side of this valley here, and yeah, it's kind of cool because you kind of drive onto this space. There isn't armed guards at the entrance near on our private road, but yeah, it's kind of cool. It's so different, and yeah,
Yeah, that is.
but there's
That is
very
kind of cool.
sketchy people about 5 minutes in that direction. So yeah,
I mean, that is the same. Like, if you're in downtown Los Angeles, like one street, it'll be like these jewelry stores, like all this expensive stuff. I feel like I'm too poor to walk on that street. And then I'll go one street over and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I do not feel safe. Like,
yeah,
like, what are my surroundings? Let me pay attention and get out of here. And that'll be a street, just the next street over. It's
yeah.
the same thing. Like, it's very weird how cities and towns just kind of create that naturally.
It is, isn't it? Like, it's kind of a lot of self-preservation, and people like we've all got our bubbles and we're comfortable in. I just kind of wanted to ask, have you ever seen a show called Broad City?
I have seen it. I haven't watched it a lot, but I've seen a couple episodes.
Because in that show, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Woody Allen because he's a very strange individual, and how he showcases New York, which he's kind of a master at. And Broad City has that in the show where it's kind of really gets a sense of the New York and the evening and going out and all of that. Is there anything you've seen online or at the cinema that gives a real sense of how LA is?
You know, I really like the movie La La Land. Um, I think I would have loved to taken out all the music in that film actually. Like the jazz or whatever, that was real, right? That was happening. That was fine. But the little musical numbers, I would have loved to just suck that out and made it like a heart-stabbing film, because I think that movie was very accurate to a lot of his places. You could see it was abandoned buildings were around him. Everything was fenced. Like our parks are all fenced. There's no parks you just walk into. It's all fenced and gated, which is like a sad thing when you're not from here. And even the film of like they both had to choose their career or their relationship, I think is very, very accurate to the sacrifice that LA and New York actors have to make. You very rarely get both because the schedules and the lifestyle are it's hard to accommodate around. So I really like that film because it also does show you have the parties in the hills and these huge mansions, and then you see him walking on the sidewalk with just fences and fields of weeds that have grown where buildings once were, and he's trying to, buy a jazz club. So I like that one. I feel like there's got to be others that accurately show LA, but that was a hard question off the top. I have to think about it.
Sorry, that is a tricky one, like it's I'll have to watch that because I can't remember is it Damien Chazelle, is that right? The director?
Yeah. Who I'm
He's
a huge
amazing.
Fan of.
He's amazing. Whiplash. I'm an editor by heart, so for the last 20 years, I'd say just under 20 years, that's my kind of vocation is editing. I can edit anything, film, adverts or promos or whatever. And that film is it's obviously, how films work and you shouldn't look for edits. You shouldn't it's so massively put together. And if you want to see, Whiplash is probably one of my favorite films of the last kind of 20 years. And if you want to see a film and see, how you see like someone winning a race or someone becoming a world champion in sport, or in a film, someone kind of achieves something really amazing. In Whiplash, when they both realize, J.K. Simmons's character realizes that when that guy is drumming at the end, and he's witnessing something like magical, something kind of out of body. This is pure genius in terms of this guy playing the drums. And I've never really seen that in anything else in terms of like pure. Just like there's something really kind of trying to find the best out of something or the best out of someone, and it's so strong in that film. And yeah, I've not seen the what's the astronaut film he made with Ryan Gosling? Not Last Man.
Yeah, Last Man or First Man or something like that. That was really good. It was very different from Damien Chazelle's vibe too. Like if I didn't know he had directed that, I wouldn't have guessed it was him. Because I'm a huge Damien Chazelle fan. Even in my final year of college, they were I had professors trying to say, like, you can't write and direct. People don't do that. You have to choose one or the other. And that was the year that Damien Chazelle was nominated. And so I was like, really? Like, someone's about to win an Oscar for writing and directing. Yeah. And then you can go through how many people do it. I mean, even Shakespeare did. So that was like the perfect, like, I was like, really? Because the Academy has nominated a bunch of people this year who wrote and directed.
Yeah.
And Whiplash I loved because I had a teacher like J.K. Simmons, even looked like J.K. Simmons when I was in New York. And unfortunately, he never found his redeeming quality. But it was if he was upset with a student's performance, he would grab a chair and he would throw it at them. And I like witnessed that happen in a class. Like, that's insane to me that in America, a professor can just throw a chair at a student when they're upset. But that's like the environment that we learned in. And that movie was very, very realistic.
Yeah. Oh, that's really fascinating. Because I've never been in that kind of situation, that dynamic. And there's so much kind of, when you feel tense on someone else's behalf, that's a really kind of fascinating, I want to watch this, but I kind of don't want to be part of it kind of thing. And I think they really capture that so well. And it's a masterclass of filmmaking. It really is, in terms of, you've got two actors. It's about obsession. It's about kind of finding the best in someone in a really kind of twisted way as well. But then to go the opposite, I kind of like really ridiculous movies as well, and comedy and all sorts. So yeah, I think Whiplash has one of the, in the UK, I'm not sure if it's in the US as well, has one of the best movie posters I've seen. It's a Drumstick, and what's the actor, the lead actor in it called?
Miles Teller.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's standing on the end of a drumstick. It's a brilliant poster. It's got orange. It's very
Oh.
Saul Bass, who used to do Hitchcock's posters, and it
Yeah.
reminds me of that. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to end up watching that tonight or tomorrow or something now.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a truly wonderful film. And to kind of come back to the festival, I honestly, I really enjoyed your film, Gina. I think it was really excellent. And it's one of those films that I want to see. I'm not asking you to do this because I know it's making anything is really incredibly difficult. It's almost like it felt like Broad City in many ways in terms of me wanting to see more. I want to see more episodes. I want to see more about these characters. So there was that kind of energy to it as well, I think.
Hey, that's good. You always want to leave your audience wanting more rather than the latter. So
yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. It meant it was a personal matter. So I'm glad that it was able to come across the screen effectively and that you really enjoyed watching it.
And I've got I wouldn't say unique perspective, because there's millions of people in the situation that I was in terms of being in the hospital and being seriously ill. But when I watch it, there's got this other kind of weight to it as well. Especially when you've been through it. And yeah, you posed a brilliant question in terms of, I think it was your friend's parent that passed away. Yeah. I think it was, you create something out of something, really horrible as well. Like a friend of mine, his cousin died of COVID-19 and he caught it. My friend that's still with us, thankfully, he caught it off his cousin. And his cousin died of it, but he didn't. So there's this kind of misplaced guilt and all sorts of stuff, So yeah. I try and kind of, that's the reason I started the festival is, try to get something positive out of this kind of completely mental time we're all in, But yeah, it's kind of, I've met people like you, Michael Chan and Ian Rayburn and Manny Bra, who his film is called Minutes with Mika. Look out for that. Okay, I'll tell you something else that no one else knows, is that obviously Saturday's event with all the films isn't live, but there's elements of Sundays that is. But obviously we do pre-recorded stuff and all of that. But on Saturday, when we showcase all the films, as long as I get the edit right, there'll be a breakdown of all the films in the description, like chapter markers. So you can see who the films are. That's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to do little sections of films back to back, and then I'll have little video segments of me introducing other films. And the difficult thing for me is where to put films in order, in terms of what plays after what, because then the energy changes so quickly.
Yeah, totally.
I might put yours up next to Manny's, actually, Minutes with Mika, because his film is excellent as well. And it's the kind of, you've kind of elevated things as well in terms of what you've put out and what you've created. And I applaud you for that, because I think you've really kind of stepped it up in terms of from what I've seen of yours, of your last film for this festival. But this is like another kind of step up, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that recognition. And it definitely was a step up. I mean, it wasn't just funny. We touched a serious matter. So
yeah.
And we had a whole production team this time, not just my roommate and I. So I appreciate it, the recognition.
Yeah. And if you ever want to do horror, I do this little festival in October called the Hellbound Horror Festival. I don't know if you know about that. But I
remember you saying last time about it. but I didn't see anything about it. So I don't know if maybe I wasn't following the right like social platform because I missed it.
Oh my God.
I actually was like, he must have just never done it. He must have got busy. And then right now when you're like, yeah, my horror one in October, I was like, okay, never mind. I guess he did do it and I just missed it.
That's my fault. That's my fault you didn't see it. I can't believe because there's the Hellbound Horror Festival was founded by me and it's kind of my little baby. So is this, but I co-founded it with someone else. And I said to Chris, who's the other co-founder, really good guy, and Nadia, who I work with, and she lives in North Carolina. He said, "Oh, let's not cross the stream, so to speak, in terms of putting the Hellbound content in the isolation." Totally understand that because you feel like you're being marketed to by something else. But it's a missed opportunity because you didn't know about it. Other people should have known about it. I had Oscar nominees and BAFTA winners as judges.
Yes, that's awesome.
I had the production designer of Jaws as one of the judges. So Joe Alves, who's the production designer on Jaws, BAFTA winner, Oscar nominated for Close Encounters. And he worked in New York.
I think that's who you told me last time. Close Encounters.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
That you had them. That's why I was like, oh, I knew you had already started planning it. So I was like, he must have just got busy, and then it never happened.
Yeah, and I had Alex Proyas, who's the director of The Crow and Dark City. So I had some really, really good judges, and yeah, I can't believe you didn't see that, but never mind.
I didn't. I never did. I even looked out for it, and I was like, I just figured that, you know, like the UK was on a different, what's the word? Like different waves. Your waves were hitting different times than our waves were hitting. So I was like, maybe they got into another one and you just never did it.
That's a big thing with social media is when to post, isn't it? You know, in terms of when to do it, how to target audiences, and it just pickles my mind. But yeah. This year in October, when we have the second Hellbound Festival, we've got Jeffrey Reddick as one of our judges, and he's the creator of the Final Destination franchise. So he's one of our judges.
Nice.
He's a really cool dude. We interviewed him last year, myself and Michael Chan. So I'll have to remind him he's one of the judges. He just finished his directorial debut. And so, yeah, he's probably pretty busy at the moment. So I'll have to gently remind him, forward him the email where he said yes to it, you know, that kind of thing.
Just a friendly reminder.
Exactly, yeah. And Gina, thank you so much for submitting your film. I think Before is an excellent short film. And I really, honestly, genuinely look forward to seeing the longer version. I want to see whether... You know how have extended cuts in some giant movies, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it's like, okay, it's nice to see more footage. The best example of that is Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven. There's an extended version of it with Orlando Bloom. He's not the best leading man in that film. It should have been someone else. But the extended version gives Eva Green her character back. It's a giant epic film about Jerusalem and the Knights Templar and all that. So yeah, I'm going to hold it up to that standard. You know, I want to see what the longer version is going to be like. But yeah, yeah. When I just what's the chap called in your short film? The actor, sorry, in your short.
Joe Chambrello.
When Joe did his TikTok thing, I'm like, yeah, if I tried to do TikTok, I'd be too embarrassed to do it. So. More power to Joe and his Captain America vibes. Thank you, Gina. Thank you for being on this call. And I'm going to go and find out if my little dog needs a wee wee or not. So, would you like to see my little dog?
Yes, let's see him.
She's called Frida after Frida Kahlo, the artist. I'll go and get her now.
Hello, Frida.
This is Gina.
Hello. What kind of dog?
So she's a mix between a Boston Terrier and a Jug, which is a Jack Russell / Pug. That's what her mother is here.
Oh.
So yeah, I think just woken her up from a little a day crate, And it's time for her to go to sleep, and so it is for me as well, I think. But yeah, thank you, Gina.
So sweet, very calm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's a bit crazy during the day though.
Okay, so we're seeing the good side, the performer side.
The like half asleep side, yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I'll keep you up to date with where your films are, and I've got to create a lot of marketing material in the next few days. But yeah, you'll see things pop up and nominee graphics around next Saturday, a week on Saturday, that kind of thing.
Perfect. I'm excited to see it. And again, thank you for all the work that you put in. I mean, you even have to go through the films and figure out what order, right? There's so much behind the scene work that you do that you aren't being paid for. So you do it for us. So thank you. Thank you for creating and continuing the festival, and for being so nice to all of us as well. I'm glad that you made it through COVID, made it through the pandemic, and that we're here chatting again, and very thankful on behalf of everyone who submits to you for all the work you do.
I appreciate that, Gina. And just to kind of go back and then end where we are, if I get like a giant corporate sponsor, I'll be turning into one of those Starbucks businesses.
All of a sudden, it's going to be $75 per submission.
Yeah. I'll be wearing Taco Bell like t-shirts and baseball caps. Yeah, it's definitely not going to go down that route, and that's another little secret. It's I depending on. I like to think there's no restrictions worldwide or anything like that, and I think this festival is going to mature into something else, something definitely positive, and it's kind of bear fruit to another idea. I think that's way, because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of working with things changing and my potential job change in a very positive way. So yeah, I'll have to reevaluate things and maybe just do the Hellbound next year, which I'll make sure you know about. As soon as we've finished here, I'm going to send you a message from that account.
Great, then I can go follow them as well.
And see what you missed out on. Yeah, exactly. All right. Cheers, Gina. It's been amazing talking to you. And yeah, don't go to the Cecil Hotel, whatever you do.
Got it. I got to look that up. I will not go there.
Just type it in, Cecil Hotel Netflix, and it doesn't matter how you spell it. It'll find you.
Okay. Oh gosh.
All right. I'll see
Watch
you
me look this up after and be like, oh yeah, I walk by that every day.
That would be hilarious. Yeah. All right. Okay. Cheers, Gina. Nice one.
Cheers. Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Alexander. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.